Welcome to Bump Set Chat, the podcast where volleyball professionals come on and share their stories, experiences, and advice. And today, we sit with Peter Netisingha, the assistant volleyball coach of the UCONN Huskies women's volleyball program. Welcome, Peter.
Yeah, thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
So the way we're going to start the podcast off is 3 random questions just to get the juices flowing. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The last TV show or movie you watched?
Oh, man. Favorite last TV show I watched. So my wife and I plotted through The Sopranos actually recently.
Oh, wow.
So that, took us months to do because we're not watching that many of them every night or anything. But that's the first time I'd seen it. So I'd say The Sopranos, excellent show.
There we go. Favorite home cooked meal?
Oh, man. I'm the cook in our house. I love cooking. I think the best thing that I make is ribs, and I make ribs in the sous vide. Mm-hmm. So it's like water submersion, and then I broil them off, and they're nice and crispy. It's the best.
Yeah. We got a sous vide too, and I do some steaks, and it's just it's so good. Yeah,
perfect.
Absolutely. All right, you're flying, aisle or window?
I prefer window.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So welcome to the podcast. So first of all, how's the season going so far?
Season's good. We are, we're battling. Our record doesn't reflect how we feel about how we're doing.
Yeah.
And so it's been a grind in terms of the win-loss, and sometimes it is this way. And we don't make excuses at UConn, and I'm not here to do that either. And there are things that just happen. Yep. Over the course of a normal season. It's injury, and it's youth, and it's inexperience, and it's fluctuations in what's happening, and your opponents are changing every week too. So in terms of growth, there's been massive growth.
Excellent.
In terms of investment in our program, we're fired up about where we are. Obviously open a new building, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. So first of all, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up outside of Chicago. I grew up in a town called Westmont, Illinois, and spent a lot of time in Hinsdale, which is just a neighboring town.
Oh, okay.
And so I grew up playing and everything there.
Nice. And now you're living in Connecticut. How you enjoying the Nutmeg State?
It's again a new experience for me. I've been to the East Coast. I've been to the Northeast before to visit. Never lived here, and I think my first impression was, it's going to be crowded. There's going to be a lot of people, and where we live in Connecticut is not the case. It's more rural than anywhere I've probably ever lived, with the exception of maybe Central Illinois. Yeah,
nice. And now, do you guys have the colors of the leaves changing like you're seeing out here?
I've seen it in other places, but there's just so many more trees where we live now than anywhere. A lot more corn and soybeans where I've lived before. So a little bit more arboreal, if you will.
Excellent. All right. So first of all, how is the new volleyball home? You guys got a brand new facility this year.
Yeah, it's second to none in this area. It's second to none. Even broadly, there are some great teams, college teams that have great facilities. We think we put ours up against anybody's, just for this ease of use. And the biggest thing is access. Our players come in and they have run of the roost here, and no sharing with any other sports. And we have players in here constantly serving,
excellent,
passing, doing what they need to do on their own, and those, they can do that anytime they want. Mm-hmm. Very few programs have that ability.
Excellent. Now, when did you discover volleyball?
Good question. I was young, so I'd go to the rec, YMCA, wherever my parents are playing their adult leagues.
Oh, okay.
I'd be a kid in the hall with a ball and just finding some wall space to do whatever, pass, hit, whatever we could find to do. So young, 5, 6 years old, I was out there with the ball.
Oh, nice. So your parents then played before?
They played recreationally. My dad grew up in Thailand, where volleyball was a popular sport.
Yeah.
And so he would, he didn't have to drag my mom to it. They enjoyed playing, but he just said, let's go, it's easy, it's fun, it's recreational, and anybody can do it. That's the best part about volleyball. Absolutely. Is everybody enjoys it. Anybody can do it. To get really good at it takes a lot of skill and work, but to play, walk in the door and you can play.
Exactly. Now, did they have a boys program in middle school or high school?
Sure did. So I went to a parochial school, K through 8 Catholic school, we started in fifth grade, I believe. It could have been sixth grade. So we had some teams. My parents coached that,
Yeah.
and then we had club ball too. So I grew up playing club ball outside Chicago.
Nice. Yeah, I'm from Canada, and we same thing. Middle school, there's a boys program through middle school and high school. Here in the Connecticut area, there's a lack of boys programs for high school and whatnot. So I was curious to see what your dynamic is out in the Midwest.
Yeah, Chicago's a hub. St. Louis is a hub. Wisconsin near Milwaukee and throughout the state a little
Yeah.
bit have some. Minnesota's just added boys volleyball
Yeah.
officially. It was voted down last year by one vote,
Oh, shit.
and they got it in through this year. So it's always good to see growth in that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of every year I donate to grow the men's game.
Nice.
The women right now aren't need much help. I mean, Wisconsin, Minnesota's on Fox Network right now, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So what made you want to get involved in coaching?
I think it was something that I enjoyed, and I said, "Oh, I didn't know I could do it as a profession when I was young."
Yeah.
I think I had some other aspirations where when you're 5 to 12 or 15 years old, you're going, I'm going to be this or that, a lawyer or a fireman when you're 5, But once I got to high school, I thought, you know what? I really enjoy doing this. I started coaching camps across the country with the club that I played for.
Oh, wow.
And so I would travel to places like Oregon or Texas or Michigan, and we'd run setting camps.
Holy cow.
I'd run setting camps with our club director, and it got me excited about doing it, and it helped me become a better player to teach. And I think that's what fired me up the most.
All right. Do you remember your first game you coached?
Oh my goodness. I took over for a 17s team when I was 19. I came back from college for the summer.
Yeah.
And one of the coaches in the club had gotten sick, and they needed somebody to replace her. And I'd been coaching these camps for years for them. And they said, you can absolutely fill in, take this team through the end of the year. And so the first match I coached was probably that year. And yeah, the first club team, they were great. I mean, there were, I don't know, 7 or 8 players from that team that played Division I volleyball.
Oh, wow.
Not to my credit, to all their credit. I came in at the end of the year. And I still keep in touch with a lot of them. So
nice.
That's great.
Excellent. And now, what has been your coaching journey to this point?
A long and winding road, but a really exciting one in that too. Club ball. I coached club at this point, probably 6 or 7 different clubs, depending on where I was living. And college. I volunteered, I graduate assistant. I did a lot of different things to get my nose in there.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to come up where I came up and who I came up around. And I had a lot of people that helped me along the way. So where I had some connections with people at Wisconsin. So when I transferred from St. Ambrose University, played volleyball for a year there to Wisconsin, the club director, when I was a player in my club days, was married to the assistant coach at Wisconsin, and said, "Oh, we need a volunteer assistant." And I said, "All right, I would love to do that."
Nice. Holy cow. And then I saw along the way you were part of the Cornhuskers National Championship.
Yeah, in 2015, I was a graduate student manager, and I got to be in the gym every day with them. And my role was limited to certain things that I could do, but it was really a really cool experience. And again, people that I keep in touch with, and it's great to see them when I see them out.
Nice. Now, what was that atmosphere like? You had 15, 16,000 people in that, championship game?
Yeah. So it was interesting because there's a limit on the NCAA. There's so many rules, and you can have certain people on the bench and not certain people on the bench. So for this particular championship game, we can have only this amount of personnel. So I didn't actually get to be on the bench.
Oh, shoot.
I was in like the front row right behind with a couple of the other guys in the same position that I was in. But as we were creeping towards championship point, we're talking to the security guard and we're going to run out there. So just so you know, we're going to go out there. We're part of the staff and the team, and they didn't put up too much of a fight with us. So it was something else, though. The confetti's falling, and the players, it's the pinnacle. It's the top of the mountain.
Yeah, not many places you're watching a volleyball game with that many people, and
Mm-mm.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and at Nebraska, you get it every game because they fill it up. They put 8,000, 7,000 people in the stands at Devaney every match.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of like similar. When we moved down from Canada, women's basketball in college, like coming
Hmm.
here and they're filling up the XL Center at the time. Is like, in Canada, our college, our national championships might get a few thousand people for the
Yeah.
women's hoops, and it's a
Yeah.
different thing down here. College
Hmm.
sports and girls hoops or girls volleyball out in Nebraska.
Hmm. Yeah, it's an exploding sport,
Yep.
and women's basketball has long been the top women's sport, and still it's great to watch. They're getting better and better as well, and
Yeah.
I mean, there's this volleyball wants to be better than basketball, or basketball wants to be better than volleyball, and I mean, rising tide for me. Rising tide
Yeah.
raises all ships, and so women's sports is
Yep.
something that obviously we pay a lot of attention to,
Yep.
and everybody that comes to a volleyball match for their first time says very similar things and goes, "I had no idea how physical and talented this
Hmm.
was," because their recollection of volleyball is, I played in PE.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're just slapping the ball across the net,
Right.
and the guys are tearing the net down on every play,
Yeah.
and it's they don't understand the finesse and skill and power that exists out there, and from the bottom of Division 1 to the top of Division 1 and all the way through Division 2, 3, NAIA, JUCO, there are incredible athletes, and it's a sport that people go, I had no idea it was like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, because like you said, it's PE or, the backyard, everybody's having
Yep.
some hot dogs and beers and,
Mhm.
everybody's playing and it's like, pray to God nobody flies under the net, takes out your ankles. But when you see it played at that level, it's
Mhm.
yeah, okay, this is it's a real sport. And
Oh yeah.
like you said, skill, power, and yeah, I've loved the sport, ever since I discovered it.
Yep. Yep. And that's you asked me earlier why I coach, and that's why it's an ultimate team sport. And I know
Mm-hmm.
people talk about football a lot when it comes to everyone's got to do their job
Yep.
for it to work. But football, you stop, somebody's holding on to the ball. It doesn't
Right.
have to stay in the air.
Yeah.
They're different and impressive, but for my money, I think volleyball's as ultimate team as you can get.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So now, what was your path to UConn? How you've been here. This is your second year into coaching. How did you end
Mhm.
up up here in the Northeast?
Yeah, most recently I was working as a volunteer assistant at Marquette, and I was coaching some club. I had followed my wife up to pursue her PhD at UW Milwaukee,
Yeah.
and after she finished her PhD this past spring, actually, I was like, I'm going to get back into college coaching in a full-time capacity, and Ellen Herman is a former great player at Ohio University and our head coach here at UConn, and we have connections through Ryan Tice, who's the head coach at Marquette, who coached her when she was at
Oh
Ohio.
wow.
And I also volunteered for him not only at Marquette but also at Ohio University in 2013. So there were some connections there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually coached the Ohio University team as the volunteer that the current Marquette assistant coach, Abby Gilliland, who was our former UConn assistant coach,
Oh wow.
was on. So we swapped schools in the same season, which was pretty interesting.
Oh cool. Oh man. And now since you've been doing this for almost a decade of coaching, what kind of changes have you seen, or is it sort of still the
Mhm.
same sort of skills and sort of technique, or still taught, or has things changed much over the last decade?
I would say things are constantly changing, and there's this idea that the women's game kind of follows the men's game, as the men internationally are playing at such a physical level, and the women's game is catching up. And obviously the men's net is higher. It's a different kind of game,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of people that would say they prefer the women's game to watch. But there's a lot of parallels. So, the backer attack comes and
Mm-hmm.
goes with the women's game, but I think it's getting there to a point where it's here to stay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of net play where there's a lot of intentionality with tooling the ball off the block. That's
Mm-hmm.
happening a little bit more than it used to. And just again, the athleticism is growing, where we used to go recruit tournaments and be like, there's a 6'2" kid on court 70. We got to go see her.
Yeah.
And now there's 55 6'2" kids instead of two of them.
Yeah.
And there are some players that are really, really physical. And that I think is the biggest change, is the physicality of the game continues to grow,
Yeah.
as opposed to a one-off player that's really physically talented. There's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's funny you talked about the men's games. Like, when you got somebody who's 6'6" as a setter, maybe I don't know. Do you at some point do you look to raise the men's net up a little bit, because like the back row attack was, even for a men's, it was never a main thing 20 years ago. Now it's a part of every play.
Yeah. The question gets asked a lot, and it's a valid question. The answer I always have to that is, so what are you going to do for serving? Then serving gets really different.
Mm-hmm.
You raise the net a couple inches and they can't quite serve as hard, and
Right.
then the ball control, and it might still be easy to kill the ball. So it might have the adverse effect,
Yeah.
the opposite effect of what they're trying to achieve.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because if you look at hockey has the NHL rink, but then there's the Olympic rink, which is much bigger, and it changes the dynamic of the game a little bit. So yeah, it's I was just curious your take on it, but yeah.
Yeah, and this is something that few people know, and I didn't for a long time. In the United States, the high school court is larger than the college court.
Oh, really?
It is. It's in the college court is in the metric system.
Yeah.
And it's the normal 3 meter line, so it's 9 by 18.
Yeah.
And in high school it's in feet, so it's 30 by 60.
I did not know that either. Holy cow. Interesting. So now, over the years since you first, picked up that whistle to now, what have been some of the highlights for you that, that stick out?
The highlights all lie within the experiences of traveling and going. So with Nebraska, we were able to travel overseas. This is a highlight for me. The team traveled to Japan and China, and I was able to jump on the last minute. John Cook, the head coach, said, "Do you have a passport?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Do you want to go to China with us?" And I said, "Yeah." And so to be able to experience another culture, elite volleyball. I mean, we were playing against Olympians over there.
Wow.
And I mean, it was an interesting setting in most cases. The coaches on the other benches are usually smoking cigarettes the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's just a totally different experience. So that was one of the highlights. All of the teams I coach and the players that I've worked with is really great. And like even in my club experiences, I was back at Marquette last night, and there was a couple players there that I had coached when they were in club when they were 17 years old, and they're saying, "How do I get into coaching?" And I'm flattered that you're asking me. I'm excited about it for you, and I want to tell you how hard and great it is at the same time.
Uh-huh.
But those are some highlights. And then it's easy to pick on championships. I can tell you there's nothing better than winning a conference championship. I'm not saying that it definitely means more than a national championship, but there's a little bit more, not even bragging rights. I don't know what the word is exactly, but we worked really hard and we know these teams. And
exactly.
These are our peers, and we play them every year, and we play them twice a year. And so it means a little bit more to master your conference than it is to go and win 6 games in a tournament.
Right. You're, at the tournament, you're not playing teams you used to playing, but in your conference, like you said, everybody knows each other, and to walk away with the bragging rights and the champion, that's special.
Yep.
Absolutely. So now, when it comes to like player development, it's a critical aspect of coaching. What are some strategies or approaches you guys use to help your players, maintain that level of top of their sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, time and reps. I mean, we're in the gym constantly, and the commitment level has to be really high because your opponents are doing it.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice if you want to keep up, and then recruiting is a big part of it to try and get players in your gym that can compete at the level that you're playing at. So in terms of in practice, in training, we're testing all the skills. We want to make sure that we're training a full volleyball skill set. We don't have players that are just middle hitters and only do middle things. They ball control, they serve, they pass, they defend. It's not always exactly equal among all positions. We have to put our efforts where they're going to be most beneficial. But it's a full volleyball player perspective. We want volleyball players. We don't want individuals that have one good skill.
Yeah. You're not looking to, okay, we got this 6'6" girl. We'll hide her at the net right now and we'll just use her as a middle and that's it. You've got to be able to do it all.
Yeah, and development is so important, and then you get growth out of that too. And our our focus is to help them grow as people and make sure that they have an experience that's going to benefit them forever.
Yeah.
It's a singular, it's a unique experience to be a college athlete, and it's a small window.
Yeah.
And we take that really seriously, and I feel like it's a really big responsibility for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, you have them, for 4 years, and you're doing their education along with the being a premier athlete in college, and then shaping them so when they move on, they're good.
Yeah, you got it. And we have players that go on and play professionally. And both Lindsay and Lindsay, our other assistant coach, and Ellen both play professionally overseas, and they love their time doing that. So we get excited when our players get the opportunity to do that or decide to pursue it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So now, as an assistant coach, what are some of your responsibilities within a team for practices and during game time?
During practice, I do a lot of the training planning. So I'm kind of our training director, so to speak, sans any official titles, but I'm generally planning the bare skeleton of practice. We give feedback as a group. We collaborate and we say, all right, can we tweak this? Can we tweak this? Ellen will say, I would really like this in practice. Lindsay will say, I want the middles to be doing this. And so I kind of build that and put it together. My primary position responsibility is setters.
Yeah.
So it was my position growing up as well, and when I was a player. And this is one of the reasons that we talked about when Ellen was in the hiring process with me, said she needs somebody that can train setters. And I said, this is what I love to do. And I really love to train all positions, but when you're a setter, you get to touch the ball every play, ideally. And I think that's, again, you're driving the bus.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, interesting point. You coming with that setting skill, and that was my role in college and whatnot. There's I was talking to some of the refs and coaches in my area, and they're talking about for the high school level, letting the second ball now being like a first ball, and I just cringe at that as like. Yeah. That does nothing for them when they move on to that next level of college if they've got sloppy hands. So, what do you think of, some schools thinking about letting that go on?
Yeah, I think it's a fair critique on your part, especially at the junior level. I think it is a disservice at the junior level to let everything go. I think it doesn't allow them to be as great at their skill as they should and can be. I think at the college level, we're getting to, again, such a physical game that I've gone back and forth on this. And at the level that we play at, once I know a referee is not going to call a double contact, I can just say, okay, you know what? I can deal with that. We can deal with that. That's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
They'll call anything that's egregious, but anything close or a little bit loose, we've seen it been called less and less over the years. And short of saying I'm in favor of it, I would say I can deal with it and I can adapt to that. And I think that's okay that the game is going that way, because hopefully it's not benefiting you that much to, just muck up a ball.
Right. Yeah. And what it does, it lets the play continue. Instead of just killing the play and more stoppages, I guess.
Right. Yeah. And it takes a lot of subjectivity out of it. And officials, my father's an official. I'm an official. I'm a certified official. The less you blow your whistle, the better.
Right.
And the game is not for you. You shouldn't be trying to input yourself into the game as little as possible. You're allowing it to play and you're calling what you need to.
Yeah.
That's the goal of me. That's my perception as an official. It's my dad feels the same way.
Yeah.
And I think he's a pretty good official. So,
well, it's true because you look at like baseball umpires, the ones who don't draw attention, they're the best. They're the best ones. It's just the way it is. You don't want to be noticed or recognized.
No.
Absolutely. So
In
that,
baseball, you don't want to know their names. If you
right,
know their names,
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So now, when you guys are preparing to play against the team, so what kind of, how do you guys prepare for a match? Do you guys do a lot of review, film review or video review of the other team, analytics, things like that?
Yep, a little bit of everything, and truly a lot of everything for the coaching staff. We've actually this year added our team doing their own scout as well. So
Oh,
each
okay.
position group will go and evaluate the opponent's position group of the same, and they'll give us little notes. We don't want them to spend 2 hours on it. We want them to spend 15 minutes watching a little bit of film, making
Yeah.
sure they're familiar, and then going. Beyond that, I do a lot of the scouting as well. So I'm watching a lot of film. I'm
Yeah.
watching at least the last four matches of each opponent, and usually more.
Yeah.
And then if we're playing somebody twice, I watch what we did the first time
Yeah.
around.
And now,
Um,
adding into that, where does analytics fall into, college, into volleyball? Are you guys, is it a big piece yet, or is it coming?
Big piece,
Yeah.
already a big piece. It's we're evaluating very, very fine skills. We're evaluating by rotation, by side passing, by short deep, by matchup. There's a ton, as much as other sports as I would imagine.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Excellent. So now, UConn, strong athletic
Mhm.
tradition. How does the university's culture and support system contribute to the success and growth of the volleyball program?
I mean, the investment is clear. We we were broached with this idea of opening our own facility as hockey was moving into Toscano,
Mm-hmm.
and we were jumping at the chance. And our athletic director Dave said, "Is this something you'd be interested in?" And he couldn't finish that sentence before we were saying yes. And that investment is outstanding and so appreciated. It's going to pay dividends for the success and recruiting of our program.
Yeah.
Um, and then being around champions, obviously the men's basketball team this past year,
Mm-hmm.
women's basketball as often as they've won it. That's something that people like to be a part of, and it maintains the standard and the excellence of all of our sport programs. And basketball is the one that everyone knows, but we have excellent sports programs. I
Right.
mean, our hockey teams are only going to get better because of their new digs as
Mm-hmm.
well, and the continuity that we have in some of our coaching staff too is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to the new facility. Last year you guys were playing in Gamble, beautiful
Mhm.
facility,
Yeah,
but it kind of feels hollow. At least now in your
yeah.
new facility, it's you can loud everyone. A great kill is made or a block, you hear it, and that amps up the
Mhm.
team.
Yeah, and the crowd. I mean, the crowd can really be a part of the match, and that's it's special, and it's only going to get better as we continue to make upgrades. This year, we have temporary bleachers.
Yeah.
We're very much in phase one of our project, and man, if this is phase one, we're really excited for phase two, and we're excited to show all of our fans and especially our team
Yeah.
what's in store. So, yeah, it's next year's going to be a new experience again. We're going to have a video board. We're going to have, everything's going to be better again.
Nice, excellent. And now, my daughter and I have caught a few games up there, and I love the excitement on the bench. We just love watching the dances and just
Yeah.
it's so great to see, and it's they people who aren't playing, they look like they're still enjoying themselves.
And they are. And that reminds us as coaches that we have the right people.
Yeah.
And it's part of the volleyball culture as well. It starts really young.
Mm-hmm.
And, when players are in their 12 years and all that stuff, and they're putting ribbons in their hair and they're wearing matching socks, and
Yeah.
it's very much a team camaraderie sport. It's the antithesis of an individual sport. You need everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's great. And the celebration on the bench. You look across the NCAA, and volleyball's doing great with their social media. It,
Yes.
it is it is omnipresent. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about that. And our team does their TikToks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they asked me to be in them here and there, and they're telling me you're viral, you're viral. I'm going, if you say so.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is my daughter's first year in high school doing, and it's just the excitement. They love it. They're cheering, and I don't remember seeing that excitement on the boys' team. It's like
Mhm.
it's just, yeah, all right, but it's a different, I don't know, enjoyment and excitement. It
Yeah,
seems.
yeah. They get after it, and it's it goes through the court, it goes off the court.
Yeah.
They're always like this, and it's a unique team that we have right now at UConn. That I've coached a lot of teams, and these guys are pretty tight, and a lot of teams are, but this team exceptionally, even in the past couple of years, UConn's got the right stuff going on.
Nice. And now, what's that first practice of the year like? Is there, you got new people coming in? Is there team meetings for everybody they meet each other, or team bonding? What's that, first meeting like?
Yeah, first meeting. I mean, there's tons of hope. There's tons of excitement. There's tons of, you get this blank slate every year. Everybody gets a blank slate every year.
Yeah.
And if you're an incomer to the team, you haven't been on the team, yours is even more blank. And that's very exciting. And tons of hope and excitement for what's to come. But I think that team bonding starts to happen in the summer. It's not even at the first meeting, because our players come back for summer classes.
Oh, okay.
And they're weightlifting, and they are doing open gyms on their own, and they're getting better.
Oh.
So they already know each other a little bit. What the missing piece is the coaching staff,
Yeah.
which we can't be a part of anything in the summer thus far. So we get in the gym, and things, the level ratchets up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You go, all right, like the people that are making decisions are in the gym now, and we're not feeling each other out anymore, and they're not nasty with their competition, and they're not trying to put anybody down in order to get up.
Yeah.
So that's great. But there's a different level when the coaches are in the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. So two things off of that one. So I was talking to one of the coaches from the men's program for Hawaii, and they're just, getting ready they're going on a trip to play over in Japan. And they have this, 1-2 month advantage of getting everybody together. Whereas, with the
Mm-hmm.
women's program, it sounds like during the summer, no coaches are really involved, and you hit end of August, you guys got to be ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a challenge, and it's something that, as a coaches association with the AVCA and college coaches, we've been working on getting that availability a little bit earlier. Whether it happens soon or not, I don't know. Whether it ever happens, I don't know. But it is, being a fall sport is a challenge for everybody that's a fall sport. Sometimes you have days to prepare for your first competition, not even weeks. And that's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then adding on to that, so, the season starts, everybody's sort of, your team is built. Does it ever happen where, like, some kid shows up at UConn that they've played volleyball and sort of slipped under the radar, and it's like, there's this person, they've got a 40-inch vertical jump.
Yeah.
Does that even happen, or is it the team is set and that's it?
Generally, the team is set. It happens sometimes. It hasn't happened since my time at UConn.
Yeah.
We have players and students at UConn, I should say, that reach out yearly. I have a couple of emails in my inbox that I need to respond to and say we're not looking to add anybody right now.
Yeah.
But certainly it can happen. When I was at Wisconsin, we had multiple players that tried out from the club team and joined the squad.
Yeah.
We work so hard in recruiting. It doesn't happen as often, and we have to be selective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, how hard of an adjustment, or is it much of adjustment, for those freshmen coming in to get used to that college level of play? Or the skills got to be there, obviously, or they wouldn't be on the team. But is it a much of adjustment? Is the game pace different, or they're running up against probably players that are hitting the same level as they may run up across, maybe a few times per tournament, when they were back in high school or playing club ball.
Yeah. I think you'll hear people say you will run across players that are elite through your high school career and your club career. But now everybody is.
Yeah.
So the level of play goes up. There's no, we can just serve at her and she's no good at passing, or we can just ignore her as a middle attacker. She doesn't swing. She's only a blocker.
Yeah.
Everybody has the skill to compete, and there's no easy match. Winning is hard.
Yeah.
So no matter who you're playing, winning is hard.
Yeah. And now a month or so ago, my daughter and I caught a game up there, and we saw Maya, and we saw her hit. My daughter's jaw hit the floor. You guys got something special with her, it seems.
She has a gift, and she works her tail off to have that. she hits the ball hard,
Yeah.
and about as hard as anybody in our gym, or maybe even anybody in our conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, she brings the house down.
Excellent. Yeah. It's nice to have somebody like that on the team that, can just rile people up. And now last year I caught seniors night. That seems like a really special night for the team. Is that like one of the highlights of being a college coach is, those special nights?
It's certainly gratifying, and you work so hard for your players and your program, and they work hard for the program as well. So when at the end of the day, at the end of their career, they've given all they've got to UConn, to their teammates. It's a rewarding weekend for everybody, and it's bittersweet, of course,
Yes.
because you're losing people that have been so invested in this project, and as coaches, God willing, we get to stay.
Yes.
And players come and go, and that's the nature of what this is. Especially last year's group was a really pivotal group for our program, and I was very fortunate just to join along for the end of their ride. I wasn't there for all of it, and they welcomed me, and I'm eternally grateful for them welcoming me into the fold, and I'm again super grateful.
Nice. So now, when the season is over, what happens, what happens next? The players still able to, do you guys still have practices, or, is that when recruiting kicks in for you guys? Sort of what happens?
Depending on when your season ends, if you don't make postseason, you have the opportunity for a few more days of practice.
Yeah.
If you make it to the postseason, really when you lose or win your last match, that's the end of the competitive or practice and training season. Closeout meetings, always important, just to review and say, all right, how do we achieve our goals individually as a team? And then there's recruiting never stops.
Yeah.
There's really no pause other than the NCAA times where we cannot do any recruiting.
Yeah.
But it's the lifeblood of every program is the people that you bring in. So that never stops.
Yeah. So now volleyball is not just a physical game. You do physical skills. There's the mental toughness. How do you guys work with your players to keep that focus?
We do a couple different things. One of the major things we do is we actually work with a program called Squad U. Squad U, shout out to Aaron and Fu. They come in and they do a couple sessions with our team. So whether we're working on resilience or self-confidence or self-talk, we get to kind of pick a bespoke program for our team to go through every year. And this is something, again, resources wise, UConn allows us to hire out somebody that will help us do that. We're coaches. We're not mental health professionals. We're not therapists. We sometimes we have to blend those roles a little bit, but there are people that know what they're doing a lot more than us. And we're volleyball coaches as well, and we've done it. But when we have these resources, we try to use them.
Yeah, nice. And now, sort of adding on to that, so like the mental aspect of it, like when you guys hit a slump, a losing streak, how do you recover out of that? What's your, how do you guys strategize? Okay, we what do you do? Are you harder on the practice? Do you lay back? What's your strategy?
Yeah, and the answer is it depends, but broadly, I think we talk about response to everything we do, not just wins or losses. It's how are you going to respond to what just happened, and that you can go as micro as you can or as macro as you can. So our season last year, we had a pretty good season. How do we respond the next season? We had a bad pass after that play. How do you respond in the next play? Are you still thinking about that? Forward is always the answer. You can't go backwards other than to evaluate.
Yeah.
And we do that when it's appropriate. We have TV screens in our gym. So we have, we call them TiVos. They used to be TiVos. And now you say TiVo and our players don't have any idea what I'm talking about. No. And it was a narrow window for that technology nevertheless. But now we use Apple TV and an app called Bust a Move. So BAM. And it's a dance app, and you have your video on delay. So you get instant feedback from these things. So I'll have an outside hitter go pass to attack. As they're walking back to line or jogging back to line, they're watching their rep.
Ah,
What can I
okay.
do better? And we have three of these, and we'll set them up on each court and keep it going.
Oh, nice. And now on the the other side of that coin, you guys are on a winning streak. Do you do you guys change anything, or keep the boat pointed that direction, or is there any superstitious things like, okay, nobody does this,
Yeah, routine's really important. I'm the least superstitious person you'll meet. I think you make your own luck,
Mm-hmm.
and if routine is part of that, absolutely. We don't go up and do a different serve routine every time we serve,
Yeah.
and that, again, micro and macro, you can do that as wide a scope as you want. But we're adapting constantly. You have to, if you want to stay in the same lane, even if you're winning, and we don't need to flip anything completely 180, but we need to continue to adapt
Yeah.
because other teams will.
Nice. And now often I've seen, the mood is everybody's like tense. Do you have that one player that's the joker that can just like bring everybody out of it and just like, all right, we can breathe now.
Oh man, I we might have a couple. Yeah, our current team, very close, very intent on what they want to do, and in many ways a little bit young too. But our leadership, our older players, our veterans can bring some levity when it's necessary, and they can crack it down when that's necessary as
Yeah.
well. So I think of Taylor's one of our starting middles, and KB is our libero for this year and last year, and actually the last 3 years. Um, and they bring a good balance, and KB's always got a funny story to tell, and Taylor always brings the best music into practice. If I'm not on the aux, it's me or Taylor all the time.
Yeah, nice. Uh, and now adding on to that you just said leadership. Leadership plays a huge role into a successful program. Do you find athletes just have that in them, that leadership, or is it something that some actually grow into and become that leader?
Oh, absolutely, you can grow into it. It's something you can cultivate. Oftentimes, when there's a person that is doing pick me, I would like to be the captain.
Yeah,
Sometimes that's not the right person for it. Sometimes it's the reluctant leader is the right one.
yeah,
And I found that to be true within individually throughout my coaching career. Is you want the person that's going to be consistent and driven, and is going to do the right things, and is going to be on time, and is going to make sure that they have their knee pads and brought their uniforms. You don't want the flashiest person. It's not a popularity
yeah,
contest. It's somebody that's going to be able to lead by example, and their voice carries weight.
yeah. And now continuing on to the sort of leadership discussion is you have a small window where you have that leader, and as this it might be the senior, that senior is moving on. How do you sort of cultivate or identify that next group of leaders that are coming in, because it's a constant thing for you guys every couple of years? You've got to find that new leader.
Something that we do at UConn is we try and bring younger leaders in. So we will do, like last year, we did a leadership council. So we had a representative from multiple classes. We had 3 or 4 players in the leadership council, so that even the younger players, their input is valuable, but they can listen, and that's even more valuable for them.
Yeah.
That's one of the main things we'll do. And I've done this at different places that I've coached as well, where you go, all right, yes, you're right, you're going to move on. You can't just be one senior every year, because then there's not much continuity.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And now sort of, what has been the most significant lesson you've learned as a coach, and how's it influenced your coaching philosophy?
Mm, culture is key.
Yeah.
It's a buzzword right now. I know that. But I remember thinking this a long, long time ago, my first college job when I was at Wisconsin, and we struggled when I was there, and we had an awesome head coach who was he was a really strong leader in that he cared very much about what was happening. We lost a little bit of our culture during the time that I was there, and there was just question marks, and not everybody was always on the same page.
Yeah.
And you could see the cracks start to show. And so you have to have everybody on the same page. You have to have everyone bought into a unified idea. And it doesn't always have to be, we want to win.
Yeah.
That's, everybody wants to win. That's not culture. Culture is what you're doing daily, what your habits are, what your standards are, and building on those and reinforcing them every day.
Yeah. And now, speaking of culture, that leads, I was saving this for the end, a question from a high school coach and a question from a high school player. It just so happens the high school coach question I have for you is, one of the coaches asked me to ask this one. How do you approach team building and creating a positive team culture in a college program, and what strategies can a high school coach use to foster that aspect in their team?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we do a variety of things. I mean, team bonding trips and that kind of stuff, those are all great. Putting your team in tough situations that are safe,
Yeah.
And that's what sport is so great about, is that you learn how to lead, you learn how to organize, you learn how to work together in an environment that is not life or death. And every once in a while we'll have a player that it feels like it is.
Yeah.
And those are your passionate, those are your confident and competitive players, and understanding who everybody is. But I think putting them in situations to learn about themselves that are challenging, and you're going to learn.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think of a specific example that I can think of. It doesn't even have to be volleyball. It doesn't even have to be sport. It can be having tough conversations.
Yeah.
We do an exercise at least once a year called a window and mirror. And our window and mirror exercise goes like this, where we come up with a prompt as a coaching staff. So one of our prompts from recent years was, I lose trust in you when you, and you have to answer that. You have to fill in the phrase with something that can be seen and it's not a feeling.
Yeah.
When it can't be when I feel like you. It's got to be when you look at your shoes after a play.
Yeah.
When you hit a ball out of bounds and don't go into the huddle. And then the responder, whoever you're saying it to, can only ask questions. They can't respond in a defensive way. They can only ask questions. That's your window. We're windowing doors. Mirror is, I lose trust in myself when and then you have to say same thing.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, and you can use a different prompt.
Yeah,
we've chosen that one in the past, and usually it creates some honest conversation.
Yeah,
and honest conversation is really important, and
it could be tough too sometimes.
It's almost always tough.
Yeah,
and as a staff, we have tough conversations as well. And again, you will go to bat for that person when you know about them more than surface level.
Yep.
And I think that's a big key.
That's true. Yep. So now, any words of wisdom for that or advice for that aspiring coach or current coach who's looking to make a positive impact on the lives of these young athletes through coaching?
I would say ask questions more than you tell what to do.
Yeah.
You learn more by asking. You learn more about where the player you're working with is coming from. Try and meet them where they're at, but continue to push. I think that's something where, just as a culture too, we need to continue to push and get uncomfortable because it is safe. It is, and you have to create a safe environment. You have to be able to push your players in a way that they trust and believe in you, and you trust and believe in them, and you're doing it because you want what's best for the team, the program, and the individual. That's what I would say.
All right, cool. And now, focusing on the athlete side of things. So, a lot of athletes, they dream of playing, Division I at that level. What advice would you give to some of those athletes who are thinking about pursuing their dreams of playing college ball?
Yeah. Don't fear failure. I mean, you hear it. You have to believe in that, and you learn more from failure than you do from success, and it will always be that way, whether it's sport or something else. Don't fear failure. Don't fear being the person that steps out into the demo or anything like that and says, I'll jump in. Worst case scenario, you make a mistake.
Yeah.
You're going to go on. You're going to survive. And then you won't make it again next time. But you have to see what you're made of by going out there on the limb.
Yeah. Nice. All right. So now, we first met, my daughter was in that camp over the summer, and I'd love to get your, it looked like all of you guys had fun doing those camps and clinics. Is that something you look forward to every year?
For sure.
Yeah.
They are equally exhausting and awesome.
Yeah.
So it takes a ton of energy. Sometimes it's a hot gym, sometimes it's,
Yeah.
no air conditioning. It's great. I mean, working with junior players is we don't get to do it for very long in the summer. We get a tight window
Yeah.
of June and July. And it's rewarding, especially to continue to grow volleyball within our state.
Yeah.
And Connecticut's got, frankly, a long way to go still.
Yeah.
It continues to grow, and volleyball's getting more and more popular across the world and the country.
Yeah.
No, it's great.
Excellent.
And you see things that you don't see anywhere else. So it's great. And just meeting those players is awesome. And they connect with our players, which is even better than any coach connected with them, because we know that our players can be role models, and we expect that. That's the standard for us, and we want to inspire. We want to inspire players to, whether it's volleyball or something else, to go for it and believe in themselves and try new things.
Yeah. Yeah. Those camps are so much fun because the kids get to see, the Division I athletes. And now when they go to the games, we had a camp with her. It's things that, and the UConn players, they look like they have fun too. And it's just such a great time.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they have a blast. Again, we're playing the music most of the time. We like that. We like a loose vibe in our gym. As long as the work is getting done and we're pushing and growing, we see no reason why it can't be a good time.
Absolutely. All right. So it comes to my senior. So we answered the coach's question. Now the senior had a question, and the question is, what is the training and practice schedule for your team during the season?
Okay. Yeah. Let's assume we have a Friday, Saturday match.
Yeah.
And let's assume for this week it's at home.
Yep.
On Monday, we'll practice in the afternoon, and we generally keep Monday as kind of a medium intensity day. So we're coming off of a weekend. Like today, we got back today on Sunday. So tomorrow's going to be a little bit lighter because of travel legs and all that.
Yeah.
And so we're doing a 6-on-6 component drill at some point almost every day. We do individual skill training. We'll do positional training and breakdown. We serve and pass every single day. We don't hit every single day. We serve and pass every single day. For those hitters out there, you got to keep doing other things. Tuesday becomes a higher intensity practice for us. A lot of 6-on-6. We still start with our individual components. We start with maybe some small groups where working with hitters and blockers are working together, or servers and passers are working together, or maybe just middles and right sides or middles and left sides. We have some specific drills that we do all the time. And then it's preparation for game.
Yeah.
We rarely just play 6-on-6 regular games.
Yeah.
Usually there's some bonus structure or scoring structure that forces us to achieve the goal.
Yeah.
So we do a drill called 6-before-4. The idea is you're trying to side out 60% of the time. So one side is receiving all the balls, and you have to get 6 before the other team gets 4.
Okay.
It's simple.
Yep.
It does a job. If you win or lose it, it's pretty easy.
All right. And now, one other question I had was, so my daughter's team, they have what they call trash points. You miss a serve, you blow a hit, you're going to be, the coach keeps track of that. And the next practice, maybe the next practice after that, you're doing lines. Do you guys have anything like that like, oh man, I miss a serve, I'm going to be doing this?
Yeah, no, we not so much that we're tracking it during games, and we have consequences for winning and losing within 6-on-6 drills. We have standards that we want to uphold. Our gym is not punitive. In our culture, is just not. It's not the focus.
Yeah.
Generally, at this point, you've made a mistake. You shouldn't have. The reinforcement comes from feedback, and it comes from what the ball told you happened.
Yeah. Nice.
So when the other team's scoring a point, you've either made a mistake or you let them do that.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. All right. So now, away from coaching, you're laying down your whistle. You're not watching any clips. What happened? What does Peter do away from the gym?
Oh man, I like to be outside. I like to hike, and this is a nice part about moving to New England.
Yeah.
There's great scenery up here.
Absolutely.
my wife and I have traveled to, I think, 12 or 13 national parks. We like to do that. And then I'm a big music buff. I love music from all eras,
Mm-hmm.
from everywhere. And just spending time with people,
Nice.
especially my wife, my family. That's what we like to do, and I love to cook. It's
Excellent.
my favorite thing.
And now, speaking of music, looking back at all the concerts you've been to, any one particular concert that's, sticks out as like, wow, that was great. I saw XYZ at Red Rock or something like that.
Yeah, so this is in conjunction with the national park stuff. My wife and I made a big cross country trip in 2017. We drove from Central Illinois, and we ended up going all the way out to the Gorge in Washington. And this was one of the last years of the Sasquatch Music Festival, and we didn't plan on going to that. But we got to Bozeman, and we had been camping almost the whole time. And we said, "Oh, there's a music festival up in Washington, and we got to drive a few hours to get there, but we'll try and do it." Yeah, we saw some great acts there. We saw Charles Bradley, we saw the Shins, we saw LCD Sound System, which is awesome. I think, oh my gosh, Chance the Rapper was there.
Yeah.
And that's what you get at a music festival.
Right.
You get a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
which is great. That was a fun experience. Again, it was more about who I was with and
Right.
what we were doing together than any of the music, but music was awesome.
Excellent. All right. So you've made it to the end of the podcast, but before I go, I have to ask you to call out a peer or somebody that you may think have a great story that would come on the pod and share their experiences.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'll give you two.
All right.
These are actually my college roommates when I was at Wisconsin. And we coached club together. We came up together, Eli and I, and then they're good. So the assistant coach at Illinois, I'm going to give you some orange schools today. Assistant coach at Illinois, Eli Sharping, and the assistant coach at Clemson, Quinn Lukens.
All right.
Those are my guys. We've been through thick and thin. They were in my bachelor party, all that good stuff. So,
excellent.
Those are my two guys.
All right, we'll be shouting out to them and get them on. All right.
Awesome.
Well, Peter, thank you so much for doing this. It was wonderful to meet you, and thank you for sharing your experiences, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. Again, appreciate it. Can't wait to listen.